Hi, this is Rodrigo Flamenco from Frame Freak Studio, and this is the Creative Hostler Show. Today I have a special guest here. Her name is Joanna Davidovich. She was born in the US, but she had a family of Ukrainian gymnastics, and apparently she wasn't able to do all the gymnastics things, so she started doing into art, and she's an illustrator, designer, and director. Her short film Monkey Rag in 2003 won some great awards in festivals and had a limited run on theaters. She has worked on promos for Cartoon Networks and shows like Ugly Americans and Unicorn Gangs and much more. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to tell you anything, and hopefully it will be interesting and or useful. Because I'm never sure.
Awesome. So, first of all, for the people who don't know you, can you tell us more about your history and how did you got started?
I got started, as we were saying before, I always loved cartoons. I watched everything. I didn't like everything, but just because I didn't like something, I would still watch it. So just like all the Saturday morning cartoons, I would watch and I would criticize because I was like watching Scooby-Doo and be like, why don't they move more? It's so boring, but I'd still watch it. And then I learned that you could have a career making cartoons, and I thought, why would anybody do anything else? So that moment was when I was about 10 years old, and it was because of Animaniacs. That's when I finally figured out that it could be a career, that people were actually paid to create these things. And ever since then, I never really considered doing anything else. And it wasn't a specific goal that I had in mind. It wasn't just that I wanted to animate or design. I just wanted to be a part of it. And so that's why I jump around in what I do in my career. And I call myself an animation artist if somebody just wants one term for what I do. I don't say I'm an animator or a designer or a story artist. I'm like, what do you need? I'll do it. Just give me. And yeah, and so far, these past couple of years, I've been trying to climb up the story ladder, so getting closer to creator status. It's a long road. It's hard, especially not being in a market town like New York or LA. And if I were more motivated, I would move to New York or LA. But as it is, I'm happy where I am and doing my own stuff whenever I get a chance. And yeah, that's not the story of how I got started. I was rambling a little bit. I'm sorry. I got started. I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design for animation. Learned as much as I could there, although I am very critical of the program as it was then. But most people I meet are critical of their college coursework. So I guess SCAD isn't unique in that respect. But the great thing about SCAD was that it gave me an ability to get an internship at a broadcast design studio called Primal Screen, where I learned everything and had so much fun. It was the greatest summer of my life. And it kind of launched me on the trajectory of just saying yes to any project, wearing all the hats that you can possibly wear, and just being flexible. And like since then, I've only had sort of one salaried position, and it was at Primal Screen for 1 year. And the rest of my career has been freelance. And a lot of people talk about freelance as being really scary, and it is scary. But if you're flexible, then you can wrangle a pay the bills kind of career out of it. And I pretty much would say that I got into this industry because of a really great internship that really groomed me for what I could expect later on. And so when anybody asks, like, how do you get in, I'm a big proponent of internships, preferably paid ones. I know that's a controversial thing right now, but you know, any way you can get your foot in the door is what my usual advice is. So yes, that's the story of how I got into the industry. And that was long, I'm sorry.
No problem. Something that you mentioned is that you had these interesting cartoons, and I found out, like, probably you too, that many of us, like when we were kids, had like this really real passion about cartoons, but as we most people grow older, like they stop focusing on that, and there is like a small group of people who never got over it, like we do. So, what was it for you that pretty much got you interested into this point of life?
I don't know. I think it was just Animaniacs was the seminal show for me. But before that, I was a huge fan of Tiny Toons, Warner Brothers cartoons, really fun Disney cartoons, the Disney films. And for most of my life, until my 20s, I was not interested in live action unless it had animation in it, like Roger Rabbit or Mary Poppins. And I couldn't understand why people liked live action. I was like, it's so boring. There's people in it. I can see people any day. So I've had to learn to like live action films. And I'm so glad I did, because there's such a wealth of character in, live action film. But I don't know why I never got over it. I think there's something so appealing and so immediate about how cartoon characters, like a traditionally drawn frame by frame cartoon character, how they communicate, how they express things. It reads so easily. It just feels really, really true. And I'll never get over it. I'm watching the Aristocats with my little toddler lately. It's her favorite movie. She goes, kitties, whenever I mention it. And I sit with her and I watch it, and it's not Disney's best movie, but I can't get over how much fun it is to look at. Just the way the characters blink is so appealing, and it's so thrilling, and it never gets old. And these cartoon characters are so much, they're much better actors than most actors in live action. And for me, it's not really about explaining why I never stopped loving cartoons. I demand an explanation for why most people don't adore cartoons. It's like the onus is on everybody else to explain why they don't understand how awesome this is. So, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit insane, I don't know, but you just have to embrace who you are, and I'm okay with me. So
Yeah, I think there is kind of a small dose of insanity in each one of us. Like, there was an interview with Mark Caballero that I did that pretty much he said that one of the things he loved most about this work is that eventually some problem come up and they start like discussing and arguing and getting angry, and then they are like, we're getting angry over cartoons.
Yes.
And that's it.
Cartoons. I will go on and on for a long time about cartoons that anger me or cartoons I love, because I will talk forever. Just if I meet a new person, I'm like, yes, a new person to discuss Batman the Animated Series with. I have my whole bullet list of points I have to go over, and I've said it a million times. I never get tired of rehashing the same things over and over. Just like, this was a brilliant show, and you need to know what I think of it. And I'm realizing this sounds very, very crazy. But like you said, we're all a little bit crazy. This isn't an industry that if you want to survive in it, you have to be a little bit crazy, because the rewards can be so slim at times that you have to take sort of maniacal pleasure in what you're doing in order to make it worth it.
Also, onto new platforms. In the past, I think it was even harder than it is today, because pretty much, as you say, like, you had the studios, you had to either be in Los Angeles or New York or something like that, and that was it. Today, thanks to the internet, I think there is more freedom to do this stuff. And I even saw, like, you're putting a lot of effort, for example, in your YouTube channel, I saw this video that you did about the 10 crushes that you had when you were a kid. And even though like it looks simple, I can tell like, okay, this video like took a lot of work. It looks simple, but it isn't simple to make. What do you think about new platforms as a way to get your work out?
Well, I'm very grateful for it because Monkey Rag was a long time ago, but it took every ounce of my life that I had at that time. And I want to keep making stuff like that, but I don't have that time or energy anymore. So having a different platform allows me to experiment with other kinds of content creation. And the 10 Cartoon Crushes video was an experiment with doing something more editorial, something I didn't have to animate all the way through. And I did overcomplicate it. I meant it for it to be much simpler than it was. But no matter what project it is, no matter how silly or stupid the idea is, like once I start it, I want to see it through. And that's what that video was. Like, you should have heard me behind the scenes. Like, as my husband was filming the testimonial, like as soon as the camera stopped, I was like, what am I doing? This is so stupid. Oh, I want to just stop. No, keep going. We already started. There's no turning back. And yeah, so I'm very grateful for experimenting with live streams, demos, and things like that, because it's like that expression, if a shark stops swimming, it'll drown. And I can't keep doing the thing that I really want to do, but I can kind of skirt around what I really want to do and sort of keep myself alive until I have the time to do a big production again. And that's what those other kinds of videos are for me. It's just like snacks along the way before I can have the really big meal. So yeah, just got to keep swimming.
And what was the process on creating Monkey Rag? And where did this idea came from?
It came from the song. The Asylum Street Spankers have amazing music, and I was listening to them all the time. I would see them anytime they came to town. And this one song sort of became a cartoon in my head as I would listen to it. And I just listened to it over and over and over and just notice little instrumental quirks in it and translate that to an action. And it just became so delicious. Every time I would listen to it, I was just like, I can see it in my head. Oh. And then I got so obsessed with it that it couldn't get out of my head until I put it down on paper. And I have lots of ideas for cartoons that I want to do, of different styles, different structures, very different things. But Monkey Rag, it was an earworm that I had to get out. And I also knew that I was never going to animate the way I wanted to animate, the way I wanted to animate as a kid. Fun, cartoony nonsense. No one was going to pay me to do that. So if I ever wanted to try it, I had to do it myself. So that's why I chose to do that project at that time. It became much bigger than I initially thought it would be, but most of my projects end up being more than I can chew, but I just have to unhinge my jaw and make it through because I can't stop a project once I start because the world will end. That's kind of what's in the back of my mind. It's like, if I don't finish it, the world will end. Like the sky will come tumbling down on top of my head unless I finish Monkey Rag or cartoon characters I've had crushes on, or just no matter how stupid. So the process was anytime I had a break between gigs, be it a couple weeks or a couple days, weekends, nights, I would just work on it and work on it and work on it. And in order to keep myself motivated, I would post my pencil tests. So that's why if you look deeper in my playlist, there's Monkey Rag pencil test animation scenes 1 to 23. And anytime I would finish like 15 or 30-second chunk of it, I would just add that on to my next post. And seeing people's reaction to it and the positive comments on YouTube, which was amazing, it really kept me motivated. And I even had a couple people reach out to me saying that they loved it and wanted to help out. And that meant the world to me. It really did. Because I've sort of functioned in isolation for most of my life. Like most artists, you like drawing because you don't have to talk to people in order to draw. And that was kind of how I got through school and social situations. Like, you're never alone if you have a sketchbook, and you don't have to feel awkward or try to talk to people if you're drawing. And so having people actually break that barrier and actually communicate with me about what I was doing was a really mind-blowing thing. It just, like, I wasn't isolated anymore, and this is something that other people besides me might enjoy. And that kept me going. But Monkey Rag took all of the steam out of me, and the festival circuit took even more steam out of me, because I thought I had something really special, and I wanted to give it every chance that I could give it to give it wings. And the festivals just so demoralized me. I really shouldn't have. I wish I could go back in time and just grab myself by the shoulders and say, don't do this. Just trust me. I'm from the future. I know, don't do this, and you'll be better off. But and not to scare other people away from festivals. I don't want to be like, festivals are terrible. Yeah. My point is, don't pin your hopes on them. Like, I pinned every little wish and dream and hope that I had on taking this to festivals, and when none of them came true, I was done. I was ready to just give up everything. But yeah, even when you get really low, though, you still have to keep on swimming. So I still tried to come up with other projects. I wanted to do a music video for one of my friends who has an amazing band, but I thought, getting down to it, it was just going to be another one, more of the same thing that I love to do. But in order to try and make opportunity for yourself, you have to show sort of a variety of skills. And so that's what I'm trying to do now. Just say, like, well, if you don't like that, I can do this, I can do that, I can do these things. So, but I'm hoping to work those ideas into a show pitch. So I can still create that music video someday, but have somebody else pay for it, that's the dream. And I've lost track of the original question again. I'm so sorry. You kind of have to tether me in, because I don't speak to people all that often anymore. Like, especially after the baby, just like, people, what do I do? What do I say? And I was never too good at this to begin with. So I'm so sorry for going off the rails all the time.
No, don't worry. You actually answered the question where it was like the process of creating a Monkey Rag, and where did you got like inspired. Also, I went through something like similar to what you went through the festivals. We as a team won like an award to get some big money to do a couple of projects, and even though that allowed us to get some really nice experience and opportunities, like at the same time there were, even for the people who were organizing this thing weren't like very aware of how the industry works. So pretty much the idea was like to give you like a lot of money, do something, and in the same year get a huge win. And we ended up discovering like most cartoons get approved until 4 to 10 years of being trying to be produced. And also there was a lot of bureaucracy, and that is something that I hate from the deep bottom of my heart.
Yes.
And there was a lot of it, and I think the same, like if I could go to the past, I would like say to my team, hey, I'm from the future. This thing definitely will give you some opportunities, but it's not what you think.
Yeah.
And be prepared, because there are these things that are going to completely suck. So be prepared for that. Also, on the topic of your motherhood and as an artist, I saw that you have like 2 books, and one of them is, oh my god, I'm a mom. So the artist's life is like really crazy on itself, and then adding a new kid, like I can imagine that adds up to the craziness. How was your experience with it?
I honestly, it's I feel more invigorated to get work done now that time is such a premium. But the secret really was I wanted to have kids so badly that part of the reason I was so depressed about the festival run was because I had put off having children until I was done with the cartoon. And so when the festivals didn't pan out the way it was, I was depressed because I thought I had made this huge mistake with my life, that if I waited any longer, it would be like the biggest regret of my life that I put off having a child for this fantasy that was never going to come true. And was it even worth it anyway? And I just, like, for months, I was so depressed. And then then I decided, like, I'm always going to draw. I'm always going to have time to draw and work and do this and that. Eventually, I will get all of my ideas out of my head. But I only have this much time to do this really important thing in life that I really want. And so we decided to have our baby, and it was a struggle in the beginning because, as any new parent will tell you, you don't sleep. You are constantly under the strain that you almost can't even enjoy your baby because there's so much pressure. But things sort of even out, and you just get comfortable with a certain level of stress. And she's so cute and so adorable and so sweet. And it inspires so much. Like, I don't want to just create for me now. I want to make stuff for her because I'm very critical of children's television and children's films. And when I see other parents giving their kids, letting them consume certain media, I'm like, do you let your kids watch that? And I'm like, yeah, it's fine, it's for kids. I'm like, no, kids deserve better. I will make something better than that someday. And yeah, I don't think anybody needs a recommendation for having children, but if you're looking for one, I would definitely give one because I don't know, things like not doing well in the festivals or being disappointed about things that don't work out, it doesn't hurt me as much anymore because I have a better perspective on life. Because now that I know that I didn't sacrifice this really important thing for something that was perhaps not as important, like sacrificing having children for a career, is something that some people choose to do. But for me, having that would have been a huge sacrifice. And now that that is no longer a problem that I'm struggling with, the stuff with my career doesn't seem like as much of a problem. Like, I'm like, it'll work itself out. I got time, it's fine. I'm gonna enjoy my baby for a little bit. I'm still gonna work, I'm still have to pay the bills, but I just have to put off the big projects a little bit down the road. And the hurts don't hurt as much, again, because I've got the perspective. I have what really matters to me. And it would be great to have a show just fall in my lap, and I wouldn't complain. But again, it's just the perspective. I think that it helps keep you in an insane industry, and as insane as having a child is, it keeps you sane. That doesn't sound like it makes any kind of sense, but in my weird, warped mind, it does. Just as long as the baby's okay, I can deal with everything else.
Nice. Also, something that I imagine by seeing your art, like and your portfolio and everything,
Mhm.
all your drawings show like some kind of this crazy frenetic energy and happiness about it. And you're exactly the way that I figured you would be by seeing your art, because when I entered your page and like I see the first drawings, like uh, the first thing that I got, like, this is going to be a very energetic person. Like, it bleeds all over her art. So, how do you put uh, because there are many artists who I see they do great art, but I don't think like when I see their art and I know them, they are like two different things. In your case, it is like your spirit is in your art. Like, how do you go about that?
I don't know. That's just what's important for me to communicate. I think that it could be summed up in that I know that I'm never going to be a great artist like the artists I admire. I'm never going to be Chuck Jones. I'm never going to be like the thousands of artists that are working today at Pixar and Disney. I'm never going to be that good no matter how much I try. But what I can do is put my voice in my work, and that's how I can stand out. I can just, like you said, put myself in my work as much as I can, and hopefully that will be enough to distinguish it from everybody else. As I'm never going to be a great painter. I'll keep trying my damnedest, but I'm never going to be Steven Silver with character design. I just have to accept that. I'm never going to be Aaron Blaise, and those I've taken classes from both of them, and I'm like, this is not happening for me. I am never going to be that good. But you know, instead of getting depressed about that, you just find another way to come up with a reason for doing what you're doing. I'm not doing this to be the best. I'm doing this because I want to express something. And what I want to express is like 20 years of being quiet. And it's all coming out now that I don't care what people think of me anymore. And also just day-to-day life, I think that media and entertainment in general these days, for adult consumption anyway, has become so dour and so depressing. Even the comedies they have to start from this really gritty, depressing place. And I hate that. And that isn't to say that we shouldn't talk about unhappy emotions, but there's humor in everything. And humor helps us deal with the bad stuff. And, you know, reality is full of grit and dourness anyway, so why would you want to create media that lingers on that? So when I draw, I'll talk about frustration and anxiety, but hopefully in a funny way, because you could just, if you take a step back and just see that there's really nothing to be frustrated about, it doesn't matter, so let's just make a joke about it, and just laugh, have a laugh. And that's what I'm hoping someday, if I ever get my own projects off the ground, it'll just be about characters enjoying life in whatever capacity they can. And yeah, because I feel like I need that. So if I need that, then maybe other people in the audience need that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I understand what you say. Like, the last comedy that I watched as a movie that was full comedy was a movie called Rock Race. And then after that, like, when I saw a comedy and there was like all this drama and depressing things, it's like, I came here to see a comedy. Why are you giving me drama? Like, I didn't came to see this.
And there's a trend of comedians getting their own shows, and it started with Louis C.K. And I really like Louis C.K., but he started this trend of shows that are so depressing. Like, the joke is how depressing it is, and I can't get through it all the way. And I want comedies to sort of embrace life again. And it's not to mean that it should be flippant or unserious. I want to be serious about happiness. It's a real thing that it's okay to want and it's okay to be. And it just seems like unless you're being depressing, no one will take you seriously. And it'll be a challenge someday to try and make that happen, but I'd like to give it a shot.
I think that is happening actually, but not on TV, not on the mass media that we know right now. But this thing on the internet, like YouTube and everything, Vimeo, everything else,
Yeah.
definitely is going to be the future. Like in 10 years, like nobody's going to be watching TV anymore or anything like that. But I see this trend, like with bloggers and everything, that they are pushing out positivity, and the philosophy of most of them is the same thing that we are discussing right now. The well, the world is already filled with negativity. We don't need more of that. And this trend, I think, is going bigger on the internet. Although as well there is like kind of the trolls on the internet too. But I think that in your case, you have a personality that definitely could thrive way more and become way bigger on the internet than in the traditional media. And
I,
especially, we talk with this with Brenda Shadman. Like for example, Disney had this pretty much like a kind of design for animation. If
yeah.
you see the art of Frozen, for example, you will see a lot of amazing art there.
Oh, I loved the art of Frozen. I don't like the movie, but I love the book. I was like, why couldn't the movie look like this book?
Exactly, and this is something like, and when I started like seeing the art of other movies, like, why didn't they took this and make this instead this template thing? Like, I know they must have like some algorithm in marketing that says that this kind of design appeals more to kids or whatever. But I think that is missing, and I think that is going to become a bigger trend thanks to being able to be independent through YouTube and Kickstarter and things like that. So I really think you should try a Kickstarter as way to try to do your own projects.
Well, I hope that that's the case, that independent creators can become a real competitor to the big studio films. I'm not as optimistic because there's so much money in those big Disney DreamWorks movies. Like they make billions of dollars, and with YouTube, it's still. Like for me, I'm not doing it because I am aspiring to do it like be a YouTube creator as a job. I don't believe that will ever. I would love to do that, but I don't believe that will ever happen for me. But it's just another thing. Like why not? Like I've got to put something up there, and if it takes off, awesome. But if it doesn't, I'm not gonna moan about it. But yeah, just the animated films these days, they all look alike to me. I don't get excited about any of them except, I haven't seen it yet, but I was excited about the Lego Batman movie. That one, the Sony pictures and Warner Brothers pictures, I get excited about because they're different. Yeah, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, I adored. And I really liked Hotel Transylvania. Even though it was weak on story, I was like, this is like watching a real cartoon. They move with so much appeal. They're designed with appeal. And I don't care if it's not a metaphor for being a social outcast, or I guess it was in that case, but I just want to feel some sort of honesty in the acting, some sort of originality, some sort of appeal. And in the big blockbuster movies, like I don't even go to see Disney movies anymore because I know I'm just going to be bored and angry, and or the worst feeling, indifferent. Like that's the worst feeling to have after watching a Disney movie. Just I feel nothing, and that feels so wrong. Just like I should feel something. It's a Disney film. They should do so much better. But why should they change anything if they're making a manzillion dollars per movie? I mean, they're doing exactly what they should be doing, making lots of coin. So I don't even feel like I have the right to criticize.
Yeah, on the other side, like I do think that this thing is going to rise up because even though they are making like millions of dollars, like uh, for example, in the video game industry, uh, there was this moment where a friend of mine was looking to become a character developer, and she went to find a job on Disney on their site for character developer, and pretty much the only requisite was like Photoshop, and that's it, like hire style and Photoshop. And the reason why is was because they are so big, like they can just afford to have one person for each task. But however, she went then to look for a smaller studio in the video game industry called Naughty Dog,
Mhm.
and for the same job, like if you read the requisites of that list, like these guys were looking for a genius who could do everything.
Mhm.
And the reason why, when we started like finding like, wait, like this is a small studio, why do they require all this immense list of skills? And Disney like just Photoshop and that's it. And then when we were looking as to why, it's like uh, the guys were like, we are still a small studio, like we cannot afford to make a mistake, because if we make one, like we go to bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we need, like, if somebody joins our team, one, that must be like really talented, and second, like it must have like a lot of passion. And this smaller studio is beating the ass of pretty much like really big studios when it comes to the popularity and the sales of the games they are producing right now. And it's because they have this passion, they have this drive. Uh, I have no doubt that probably they are working maybe in the line of not healthiness,
Definitely.
but
That's unavoidable.
yeah. But I think that this is where the thing is going to be standing in the future, where this small studio, like for example, you see PewDiePie in YouTube, like he's just one guy, and he's getting more traffic to his videos than the mass media outlets like the New York Times and things like that, and that for me is crazy. But I think that's going to be happening in the future, like the small guys, like the small studios, because they put the work, because they put like this passion that is lacking from these big companies, that is going to be connected in more significant ways with more people.
I hope so.
And
But there's such an infrastructure for the movies and distribution. That's why everyone's been freaking out over like iTunes and Netflix for the past few years, because they're so slow to adapting to what consumers want these days. And I just feel like there's just a certain level that they'll only dismantle their system to a certain point. The only thing that would make a difference is if people entirely stop consuming the mass media altogether. And I just don't see that happening, because parents have the same attitude towards children's film and television that they always have. It's a babysitter for their kids. They give lip service to wanting it to be educational, but to me, educational is a word that means boring, and I would never subject my child to that. Although she does like Magic School Bus. I'm just like, really? Really? Okay. But as a kid, I did not like Magic School Bus. I thought it was super boring. But I think parents need to come around to understanding that what their children consume as food is important, and what they consume with their brains is also important. And it isn't important that it has a moral or a message or an educational value. What's important is that it's honest. Like, any movie from Cartoon Saloon is going to be 100% authentic, with characters that think and breathe and exist beyond the scope of that film. And that's what a film should do. It should give you just be another world that you can step into, give give the child perspective from a different character. Let that kid walk in somebody else's shoes for 60, 90 minutes. And it doesn't have to be about learning a specific thing. I think as long as it's something sincere that's honestly told, it's going to be emotionally nourishing. And I just don't see, but even with films that I like that have come out lately, like Lego Movie. I love Lego Movie, but I was like, this is not a film for kids. There's just way too much going on. You can't keep track of what's going on. And for adults, we have that kind of focus, but for a little kid, I'm thinking, this must just look like colors and noise to them. I'm not sure what they get out of it. So like I would, for my own child, I'm gonna wait until she's a little older, like more evolved in her sense of humor before I show her stuff like Lego Movie. But I just remember the stuff I really loved as a kid. It was stuff that just took its time a little bit and felt emotionally sincere. Like I always compare Frozen to Little Mermaid. And Little Mermaid has been held up as just like this is a terrible movie with a terrible, stupid heroine who makes terrible decisions. But as a kid, I felt everything that she felt, and she felt so much. She had so many emotions, and you understood why she did everything that she did. Her motivations were so clear. Her desires were so strong. And I will carry that experience with me my whole life. And I just can't imagine a little girl carrying Elsa with her or Anna, because I don't understand the characters. Like in the movie theater when I was watching Frozen and Elsa was singing "Let It Go, Let It Go" or whatever the song is, I'm like, what is she talking about? Like, what is the strain on her life? Just like keeping her. The motivation felt very sloppy, and if she was a princess who really loved to create things with her ice, if that was her passion and she had to stifle it, and then she was out in the world and was able to create as much as she wanted, then I could understand a celebration kind of song like that. But as it was, she didn't have much personality to begin with, and I don't know. I just see. I'm getting off on a tangent again. I'm sorry. I thought I was done complaining about Frozen, but I'm not. I'll never be done. On my head. I just don't feel like those characters were sincere. I feel like they were just made by committee. Just, we need to get from this point in the plot to this point, and that's why they do the things they do. And instead of Ariel, who passionately and desperately desires things and doesn't make good decisions, but that's why we have a story, because she makes mistakes, because she is a headstrong teenage girl, and it felt sincere. And now I just want that to come back. I just want emotionally honest things to come back. That's all.
Definitely. Yeah. Also, on this topic about comparing like Ariel, and there are many things that are really different. And one of the things, obviously, this topic that I see in many artists about the traditional 2D animation, I see that you have sticking to it. What is it about traditional 2D animation that you love the most?
I love, again, it's how cartoon characters communicate so immediately and so broadly. Once you start adding detail, textures, very specific things, they stop being like iconic. They start getting it's weird. To me, the more detail that's on a character, the less interesting it is to me. Compare like Bugs Bunny to any video game character that has like all the guns and things on them. There's like a million textures and all the minute little details. I never looked at a video game character and was like, what's his story? I just never did. I mean, I'm sure I'm not into video games, so that's not fair for me to say. But generally, when my husband is playing a game, I never see a character and wonder, like, what are they feeling right now? But if it was a character like Cuphead, and I think Cuphead is coming out, like, I want to know about that Cuphead character. He looks like he's got something going on, because he's just simply designed, and whenever something is broad and simplified and generalized, you can sort of fill in all the details with whatever you want. You can put yourself into that character much more easily than you can put yourself into a character that's very specific and detailed and highly rendered. And I guess that's part of the appeal. And I also appreciate when you draw something, the only limitation is your imagination, which can be frustrating. But you don't have another interface in the way saying, you broke the rig. And for any kind of puppeted animation, be it CG or Flash, and I do use Flash, or Toon Boom, any of the Toon Boom products, you're limited to a puppet. And you can always, redraw, but it's a pain. So you always want to try and work within the marionette that you have. And that limits the kind of expressive impact you can have. But with drawing, it's just a line. You can make that line as skinny or as fat or as long or as short or as round or as square as you want. It's just your brain that's holding you back. Stupid brain holding you back. But I think that's the kind of appeal that will never go away. And also, again, with drawing line work, it keeps you simple. It keeps you nimble, and keeps you from putting a lot of extra crap on characters that's unnecessary, that distracts you from the personality of that character. And I'll always draw in some form. Like my goal in my career, without any specifics, is just like one thing is like I have to keep drawing. I have to keep encompass drawing in my job in some way. Otherwise, I will be really unhappy. And yeah, drawing and using my brain, that's my two career goals. And I keep saying "and" without having a sentence to say after it. So that's why I tend to ramble. I just realized.
No worry. Also, for people who are starting out into these careers in art, animation, illustration, what are the most common mistakes that you think they are making that do not realize that they are making it?
I don't know. I don't see. Oh, yeah, I do have one observation. And I won't say anything critical. I'll just frame it in the form of advice. When you are inspired by an artist and you are, in your own work, you're trying to emulate that artist, go one step further and look at what inspires that artist and draw from that source material as well. Because you will notice, if you look at portfolios en masse, there's a lot of homogeny that's crept in. A lot of characters expressing emotions the exact same way. And that is distressing. And I feel that might be because people are not broadening their inspiration pool. So, for instance, I'm really inspired by the Warner Brothers directors, Chuck Jones and Friz Freleng, and I want to be just like them. But what inspired them? They were inspired not just by other artists, but live action actors. So they were inspired by like Groucho Marx. So go back and see what Groucho Marx was like, and how he carried himself and what expressions and facial tics he had. And if you like Groucho Marx, well, what inspired him? And go back and look at vaudeville and the kind of humor and timing that was kind of just the germination of our entire culture that we don't remember anymore because it's so far back. Nobody remembers vaudeville. I don't think anybody is alive who's ever seen a vaudeville show anymore. But once you start looking on these branches of inspiration that just keep sprouting out, you'll find just ways to different visual language that you've never been exposed to before, different ideas, and yeah, because the worst thing is to just, when you're young, to get into a rut already. Just, this is how I draw happy, and this is how I'll always draw happy forever, and that's what happy looks like. And getting bunkered down in that so young, I think is a pitfall. So keep broadening yourself, not just from other artists to take inspiration from, but just look for inspiration everywhere, and following the people who inspire you is a good way to start that.
That was amazing advice.
Okay. Like my impression of a tree.
Also, let's say you wake up tomorrow and you wake up into a new dimension. Nobody knows about you. Pretty much you are starting from zero, but you have all the knowledge that you have right now. What would you do? And you have $500 in your pocket. What would you do to get started as soon as possible and get back to this position that you are right now?
Do I still have parents in this scenario?
Yes.
I would go to my parents, move back in, and then I would craft my portfolio, go to life drawing, and start knocking on doors and not wasting time being afraid of failing. And it takes a lot to get that first door to open for you, but if you want it enough, it's really possible. And hopefully people who want it won't get discouraged too easily, or I always worry that anybody listening to me give an interview will feel discouraged about animation in general, because I feel like I'm awfully cynical sometimes, and I don't mean to be. It's just how words come out of my stupid brain sometimes. But you just, yeah, you have to talk to people, which sucks, but you have to. Going to places like CTN, all the comics and animation conventions are a great place to start shaking hands, putting faces to names. And if you're really inspired, go to LA or New York, because those are still the centers of where everything is produced. And make a presence for yourself online so that you can meet people beforehand, before you go to see them at a comics convention, and you'll stay in their brain better. So it's a lot about your skill, so much about your skill, but it's also so much about being someone who's not afraid. And you just, this kind of work seems to be attractive to socially inept people who hate talking to people or grew up hating talking to people. And so the worst thing I ever heard was in college, they started talking about networking, and I was like, no, I don't wanna. But you have to get over that and learn how to come off as a sane person. I'm still working on that. And come off as somebody who is dependable and reliable, which you can prove with your first few jobs. You have to be dependable, reliable, someone who gets the job done, who doesn't complain or whine or moan, who just sees a task and accomplishes it. And also be someone, as a plus, who's fun to work with. So people want to bring you on board because an invigorating environment is a productive environment. And oh, there was one last thing I wanted to mention, and it just flew out of my brain.
Take your time.
I don't remember what I was just about to say, but it was so important. It was the thing that everything else hinged on. And oh well, I guess I'll never know.
Also, in the art world, I think I found, for example, I'm more of an entrepreneur than an artist. I tend to hang out in a lot of entrepreneur circles, and most people there are like extroverts. I think like that's the natural river. But on the other side, on the art world, I see that there is a lot of introverts who also hate like this part of the talking to people thing and putting themselves out. But as you say, it's important line up some interviews with really big people who are shy of being in front of camera. Some of them will be just audio because they are that shy. Uh, but what would be your advice for these people who are like hard introverts who don't want to be out there, but also they want to be like living out of this?
It's a decision you have to make for yourself, that you know this has to be done in order to get yourself where you want to go, that there's no getting around it, and you just have to, oh, I hate saying it, I really do, you just have to get over it. For me, part of my sideline hobbies, I love singing, and in high school I got in a couple plays, and it was just it was emotional. Singing in front of other people just you feel like you're going to throw up all the time. But the idea of not doing it was even more horrifying. And then I thought, well, that was fun, but I'm never going to be able to do this again because high school is over, and there's no way I'm going to be stupid enough to pursue this as a career, so I guess it's done. But my sister, my oldest sister, who's like my biggest fan, she kept pushing me forward and making me talk to people. And I was so embarrassed, but it eventually got me over this domino effect. I got to form my own little band, so I get to sing in front of people now. And it was so hard at first. The first time I did it, I cried for days. Like as soon as I was done, I literally walked into the bathroom and started bawling, and I didn't stop for days. And then, you just think, this is so hard. Like my dad was like, are you okay? You should never do this again. And then I thought about never doing it again, and I started crying even harder. So it just had to be something you decide. You have to do it. If you want the things you want as much as you think you want them, you have to get over yourself and let go of the unproductive emotions that keep you from doing what you want to do. And in animation, it's the same way. You have to get over being crappy. I just wanted to do a drawing a day, and they're always so crappy. And you just have to get over it and say, maybe somebody will find some value in this, and who am I to keep them from that kind of pleasure, and post it anyway. And shortly, it's happened a couple times where I would just post this nothing crap doodle, and it would go viral because there was some little funny thing about it. And I thought, man, I was this close to just never posting that, and now I'm internet famous for 5 minutes, which is, I don't know how much that's worth, but it's better than nothing. So I hate the expression, just get over yourself, but we don't have a better expression for that. Is there a nicer, more philosophical way to say that? I would love another expression. To suck it up, cowboy up, man up, they're all terrible, I hate them. But in essence, that is what has to happen.
Yeah, pretty much. I see that this path is, I explain to my friends that I say that this path is mentally hard and emotionally hard, but it's not like physically or practically hard because there is, like I explained, there is nothing hard of me sitting in front of a computer
Well,
and do the work. But compared to other guys who maybe have to be like building the streets and things like that.
sometimes
But
I wish I did that because I'm still tired at the end of drawing for a 12-hour day. I'm like, why am I tired? Why am I angry? It does take a lot out of you. It's true. It's not digging a ditch, and I'm thankful for that. But it's not easy either.
yeah, exactly. But it goes more into the range of the emotions and the mind itself. That like it's mentally hard. It's emotionally hard. And as you said, like I come from a third world country, and for the first years, like I did the most common jobs here because that was that was it. Like there was no other option. I didn't knew actually at that point. Thanks to the internet, I was able to discover all this. But even in the hardest moments of this path, like the moments where I'm like completely stressed out, like even crying some moments because of the frustration or whatever, and then I think back of how I felt when I was doing a job that I really really hated when I in this country. I felt like this is still way better than that.
It is. Like, we do have to appreciate every moment that we can. That we're drawing, we're making entertainment for a living, and it's a very unique position to be in. And as cynical and as sarcastic or down that as I sound about it all, I really am appreciative. I really am. It's amazing to do what we do.
Yeah, I really tell my friends, like especially artists, when they're some of them when they are getting out of college or something like that. Maybe they need money or some moment, and they are planning to go maybe into one of these jobs. Like I go to them, okay, like the warning to not stay there, but at the same time, I truly recommend to look for a job that pays them what they need, but also that they hate their guts. Because once they have that experience, they are going to be so much grateful when times are hard at doing what they love.
That's probably really good advice.
At least that's what worked for me. Uh, Also, uh, anything else that we haven't discussed that you would like to say before we end this interview?
Well, I'm going to try and remember that most awesome piece of advice that I forgot, because the more I think about it, the more it's just like it will solve all your problems. It's the most amazing thing that's ever existed in the world, and like all your problems will go away if I could just find these words. So if I find those magical words, I promise that I will write to you and relay them to the world.
Please do, please do. If you remember that advice, let me know. I will put it in the website. I will put it as well, like in the comments of YouTube. So, oh yeah, she remembered. This is the advice.
Behold, all of your dreams will come true with these magic words. Oh, that's a lot of pressure to live up to for these little words. I bet it was something like just bathe regularly. I don't know. Brush your teeth.
Eat your veggies.
Hmm.
Okay. And where can we find your work online?
Well, my handle online is across most platforms is Joe the Zet, JOTHEZETTE. So Joe the Zet on Twitter, Joe the Zet on Instagram, Joe the Zet on Tumblr, Joe the Zet at Blogspot. My portfolio website is cupojo.net, cupojo.net. And I'm on Facebook as myself. I post a lot of baby pictures, so maybe Facebook isn't the best place for you to follow me. I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, Blogspot. Does anybody use Blogger anymore? I can't stop posting it. Nobody uses it anymore, but I can't let go of any kind of social media platform. Although I did close LiveJournal not too long ago. I finally closed that account. That was a great day. How can I ramble just about this stuff? Just have to cut me off, man. Just have to cut me off.
Not really, don't worry about it. Thanks a lot for your time and all your advice. This has been an amazing interview. I'm really grateful for it.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
And if you remember the advice, please let me know and I'll put it
will. I hope it's good.
Awesome. So this has been our last episode for the Creative Hustle Show. I hope you like it. Please like it in the YouTube video below and share it with all your friends.
YouTube. I'm also on YouTube.
Yes, she has an amazing channel. Follow her. I will put the link below in the description.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.